Hello there, this is Dom. I have finally found out how to use this mic. This sounds like a really stupid deal. There are probably large amounts of professionals out there who know how to use a mic properly. But I have found out the computer was complaining that if I detached the mic wouldn't work. But the weird thing was the sound quality of the mic didn't make any sense and sounded exactly like I was using the mic of a computer. And then I realised that the computer was recognising the mic, Audacity just wasn't using it. It actually said at the top, oh, it's using the Realtek mic. So, it doesn't matter, I can now review with a higher sound quality, because I've invested the money in it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to review on the Dom thing, I have got something else I'm going to review afterwards, but I think I'll put it in a separate video. I'm reviewing some books from my pile of stuff. They are the Journey into Mystery graphic novels, which were produced during 2011 onwards. I don't think they're continuing at the moment, but I've only read the first 3. I seem to remember there's 4 plus 2 called Journey into Mystery featuring Lady Sif. I'm just focusing on the Journey into Mystery series. Now, it's written so far by Kieron Gillen, Gillen. If you haven't come across his stuff, he does a lot of wonderful collaborations with a gentleman by the name of Jamie McKelvey. He is a fantastic writer involving young characters. He has although weirdly, except for Journey into Mystery, when I've read his stuff like Wicked and Divine and their New Avengers run, which are brilliant, they always seem like indie teenagers. I don't know what it is about them, but they always have a kind of indiness about them. Maybe the problem is I'm now 29 and an absolute dork, so maybe this is what teenagers are like. My God, I am finally sounding like one of the old people I hear about. But anyway, they do characters in a variety of things really well. I recommend reading their other stuff. The thing I'm reading is a Marvel-based comic which focuses around Loki, the trickster god. But it's an interesting take on the trickster god, because this technically isn't Loki. This is the child reincarnation of Loki. Little back history. There was an incident, a summer event called Siege, which kind of acted like a sign-off for a very high-quality run of comics written by Brian M. Bendis. He kind of became leader in one of the event stories. He brought back, after a very long time, high-quality Avenger comics. He did a very fantastic run, and he even continued it a bit after Siege, but Siege acts like as a sign-off for him, in a sense, leading the summer events. If I'm incorrect, by the way, please challenge me on it, but that's how I seem to remember it. And during this series, Siege, where Loki had been in the background manipulating everyone to do these things, Loki then did a final act, and he sacrificed himself. And from this story, Loki's back, but there's an interesting little thing in that he's now not part of the god life cycle. In the world of the gods, Asgardian gods, there is death and rebirth. There is, of course, ultimately going to be a Ragnarok, and it has happened before. Avengers Disassembled kind of focused on it, which was interesting. But mainly on this story, it's kind of like, in a weird sense, a story about just Loki living life as a god. But a lot of things are going on. It's tied into Fear itself, which was an incident involving Odin, the leader of the gods, if you haven't seen the film or anything, and how he has a brother known as the Serpent. And this is a completely unrelated incident. I'll be honest with you, I did not read Fear itself. It didn't intrigue me. I think my problem is I got very quickly jaded by comic events. There have been some which are terrible, and I just never got around to Fear itself because it just didn't appeal to me. But it seems to be based around the idea that there is several serpent entities. They took over Marvel characters, some of them being heroes, and they represented fear. This is all I understand about it. And the first 2 volumes, in a sense, follow Fear itself. It's Loki playing in the background whilst they see special events going on with the rest of the Asgardian gods, and obviously Thor. But it's it's in a sense Loki trying to redeem himself, because ultimately he may not remember who he is, but that doesn't mean nobody else does. And basically everyone treats him quite with suspicion, except for Thor, who, you know, he's Thor's brother. There is this real compassion. Like, he is a brother who just wants to look after his now younger brother. And it's a very good story involving this character who, through events and using his trickery skills, you know, negotiation and, in a say, subtle manipulation through language, he's playing the system in order to try and save the day. But if he's naturally a trickster, whether he thinks he's saving the day and whether he actually is something that's brought up into question a lot. And he's an interesting character in that sense, because of the fact that he's not sure if he's doing the right thing at points. He thinks he's doing the right thing, but it's kind of like, to a certain extent, the bizarrest analogy is almost like Mr. Burns when he gets help from Lisa and it turns out that he's evil. I'm not saying that's exactly what happened, but things happen which make you think, is this his own logic of how the world should work? And it's really interesting that side. He has an interesting entourage and an interesting set of characters he meets. He meets many devils. If you know anything about the Marvel Universe, that'll mean. He meets, the in a sense, a goddess of death. He meets the goddess of death's lover, who's an exile's guardian. It's an interesting entourage of characters who play off him. And what I think is very enjoyable about this is, he's a bit of a jackass, to be honest. He is not liked, and to a certain extent, even though there's a part of me which thinks they do care for him, there's no loveliness in their relationship. There is a bit of banter, if you will. They take the mick out of each other. More than anything, they take the mick out of Loki. And because of that, it makes for a very humorous, real relationship. Because to a certain extent, there are many friendships which are based on people taking the mick out of themselves, mick out of each other, or tutting. And to a certain extent, that's what it represents very well. Gillen writes for all three. It has a range of artists. The first is done by Braithwaite, his full name being Doug Braithwaite. Now, I know him for a very, in my honest opinion, underappreciated series. Maybe more people appreciate it than I know, but I very rarely met anyone who's read it. It was part of a series, let's call it the X series. It started with Earth X, was followed by a 2-volume series called Universe X, and followed by a 2-part series called Paradise X. They were a really interesting set of work, and he did the art for the final one, and it does work. There's a mild roughness to the art, but with the colouring, it has a really gorgeous styling to it, in a kind of... It's kind of like the way the overall colour, there's scenes near fire have a beautiful tinge of red. It's not overwhelming. There's a kind of dustiness which kind of represent that. It's in a sense, it's a time of great turmoil, and I honestly feel like the art does that well. Gillen's story I thoroughly enjoy. He's written Loki very well as an interesting character, and the second and third volume, which have a range of artists, the second one especially having an absolutely interestingly large array of characters doing the art, shakes up a little bit. It's an enjoyable volume. It's strange because you kind of feel different artists, you'd want to have different little stories, but it is the ongoing story. They all do very well. I wouldn't say there was anyone stand out, but maybe it's because it's just they're doing a top-notch job on it. And the final volume is predominantly dominated by a gentleman by the name of Richard Elson, who I swear, if I didn't know any better, I've seen his work in 2000 AD. If it turned out that he wrote a series... No, he didn't write. He drew a series... You know what? I'm just checking now the back page, and I can see I was absolutely correct. He has worked in 2000 AD. The series I remember was Sanctuary, and his art... I remembered his art, and it's kind of lovely for that reason, seeing that he works in American comics as well. He does seem to have a big British comics pull, though. He did things like he worked on the Beano, and he also, as I said, worked on 2000 AD. So overall, really enjoyable run. You probably will not be able to find these free trades, not because they're not impossible to find. I was able to find the first and third trade quite readily available. The second trade, which is the Fear Itself Fallout, is very difficult to find. I had to pay £11 on eBay for it because the cheapest price after that was 15 quid. And you may think, oh wow, 11 quid. It's mildly cheaper than what it would be in the store, but it's very hard to find that second volume. It's kind of like those series you love where there's one volume not available, and that is the problem. I'd recommend picking up the Journey into Mystery omnibuses, which it's 2 volumes in one, and thus if you haven't bought any of the others, you can just start there. It is a very enjoyable run so far. I would like to read more of it, but like I said, I need to finish my pile of books before I can justify anything else. If you must know where I bought them from, the first volume I bought at full price from Travelling Man. Always like supporting my local comic shop. Journey into Mystery Volume 2 I bought from eBay for £11. And the third volume I actually picked up on holiday in America, because when in America, what's the one thing I do? Cheap graphic novels. Because anywhere there are graphic novels, I will be there. And I bought it there for I think $9.99, which some people may think is outrageous, but considering the exchange rate, God bless Britain's strong currency, I recommend this series. I hope you listen to me again. I will be doing the next one on the DVD I watched last night, and I will hope to hear from you soon. Please like and subscribe, as all those people say. And yeah, good hearing from you.